Okay, I'm Susie Essman. You are?
Jeff Garlin.
We are on episode 4 of season 1, The Bracelet.
By the way, I just want to say something, and I don't know how we can work this out, but I know true crime shows are very popular. So I think it'd be really good if we tied in, even though it's fictionalized, some episode of murder, some episode of chasing someone, maybe a serial killer, through each episode of our show, because people love that. I know I do.
Well, I like fake crime as opposed to true crime.
I like them both. We do watch the same shows on BBC One.
We do. Okay. We love our Morses and our Endeavors. And
yeah.
All right, start out the episode, and Larry is watching. Larry is a long-suffering Jets fan, as most all Jets fans are.
But as we're back to budget and what have you, yes, he's watching the Jets in his performance, but on TV, I think it's like Vikings Cowboys.
Is that what it is? I couldn't even tell.
And when he watches a second time, I'm pretty sure it's Vikings Cowboys. So it's.
But he says it's the Giants.
No, he doesn't say Giants. I don't think.
No, yes, he does. He's mentioned, because I'm a Giants fan, so I noticed it.
Oh,
he mentions Giants, and he's screaming at the TV. Very, very involved in the game. And Cheryl comes home with luggage. She's clearly been out of town and hasn't seen him for a number of days. And what happens? He's not interested in her.
And she leaves angry.
That's right.
So I have 2 thoughts here. Number one, his beard is clearly fake, and it does look like he's been in a chimney.
Yeah.
I don't know
He's very disheveled looking.
He's very disheveled, but also the number of times that my wife of yore or my girlfriend have come in, forget football, where it happens, baseball last inning. They also come in on, it's the last 10 minutes of The Wire. I've had that one happen.
Yeah.
The end of The Sopranos.
Great show.
Where I had to switch to another. So I have...
Timing. You're talking about timing.
Yes, but I have never walked in on any of the women in my life and said, I wanted to talk about something, and they're at the end of something. I don't know what it is that's sniffed out or how this happens, but it happens. So I loved watching that, and I felt for him because there's 2 minutes left. And
well, I think my husband's very lucky that I'm a big sports fan because I know better.
Can I just say a blanket statement? Your husband's very lucky.
As am I.
He's a champ. I dig him.
Yes.
I was at your wedding for Criminy.
I know. So Cheryl
walks in. And I wore a
in
hat that your mother got angry at me for wearing a hat. And it was a dandy hat. It wasn't even like a basic.
It was a pork pie hat.
It was a pork pie hat. And it worked.
Pork pie hat. Why did she get angry at you for the pork pie hat?
She felt it was disrespectful at your wedding to wear a hat.
She had so many issues.
No, but she yelled at me.
Did she really?
Oh, she did. And then we made out.
Ugh, Jeff, that's gone too far,
I
that
know.
image to me.
We did not make out, but she kissed me gently on the forehead and said, I'm so sorry.
No, I doubt she ever did that.
She did not do that.
No, she did not. I know my mother.
Yeah.
No longer with us. So, again, this is the marriage.
Right.
This is the thing. And then she gives him the silent treatment later in the bedroom. And, you just see that he's... But the beard, by the way, is another example of this first season, how low budget and slapdash things were.
Slapdash is the key word there.
Yeah.
A lot of it was put together with bubble gum and paste. We had to do what we had to do. And I also, as I mentioned before, wear suits that I'm not crazy about.
But there was something kind of fun. It was almost like, I got a barn, let's put on a show kind of a feeling.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Generally, most bands, except for maybe the Beatles and a few others, your first album is your best album. And then if that's successful, it's a slow degrade downwards because you start believing the hype. We worked from in a vacuum. We had no money. We had no idea how people were going to receive this. And so there was an energy there and a willing to do stuff. I'm talking about behind the scenes, put up with stuff.
And a silliness and a fun. It was just a silly,
well, we had
relaxed...
no idea we would go more than these 10 episodes. Not a clue. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that struck me in he's trying to make conversation with Cheryl, he's talking about soy milk and that it's bad for you. And again, another theme of Larry's is his health paranoia that gets laid out here. And you know what else struck me? when I'm looking, like the last episode, I was saying he wouldn't have worn that. He was wearing something he wouldn't have worn. In this episode, their comforter seemed so out of character.
Okay,
they had this big floral comforter.
I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to talk about that. I wrote down the note. How ridiculous is their bedroom?
Yeah.
The bedroom looks like they just got out of college and this is their first place together.
Exactly.
It makes no sense. And yeah, the comfort, everything about this show aesthetically, very confusing.
Very confusing. It changes.
Yeah.
But just for me, it's so interesting to see, how it's changed. And again, what we were just talking about, the slapdashness of it, everything from the set design to the camera work, everything.
Yeah. Not much time, not much money.
And he tries to explain to her by saying, this is like you watching the Oscars. And it's the last minute and it's the best actress. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a good analogy too.
And then Larry goes to his office and gets a note that Bill Sheft called.
Yes.
Once again, an old comedy friend, my dear friend Bill Sheft, is just the name is just thrown in just for delightfulness.
And this is the second time Bill Sheft's called.
Is it?
On the show, yeah. I love it.
Okay. And Larry is dressed in like ripped, dirty, disgusting sweats, and he's unshaven, and he looks like a homeless guy.
Is that ever explained?
Why he's dressed like that? He just says, I'm going to the gym. And his assistant is like, you look disgusting. And we don't really know. He hasn't shaved because Cheryl's been out of town. Why he hasn't then shaved by the next day when she's back home, I don't know. It's
but
never
why he's
really
dressed
explained.
like a pig and he's going to the gym?
Because it serves the story.
Yeah, but I hate when the logic goes out the window.
Yeah.
And I wasn't here for a lot of this episode. I'm not in it. But I wasn't here as a producer because my son Duke was born during this episode.
Oh, is that true?
Specifically
really?
the day they filmed the fight in front of the jewelry store. Duke was born. Duke was born that day.
I didn't know that.
Yes. It's my younger son.
Well, we're happy you weren't there because we're happy Duke was born.
Yes,
he's
and
a delightful young man.
Well, yeah, so he is.
But I don't think it's ever explained beyond that.
Right.
And his assistant, I forgot her name. I love her. She's terrific.
Annette Spoler.
Yeah, she's terrific.
Okay, I might be mispronouncing it. I'll double check.
And she tells him he has to get a gift, which he does to Cheryl to make up.
Yeah,
this is nothing like a gift. Jewelry.
Yes. That always is a winner.
I'm always shocked that men don't understand the power of the flower. It's the simplest thing. Here in New York, on every corner, there's a deli or whatever where you could just buy a bunch of flowers and it means everything and it solves everything. And they're stupid not to take advantage of it.
By the way, I've done the flower thing many times, but I'm horrible at buying Marla, my wife of yore, either for Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever, or her birthday. I know that I gave her these two gifts, which she wanted, but I gave her a drill,
That's
which
bad.
she was
That's
not
bad,
pleased
Jeff.
about.
No.
She was like, what the fuck, a drill?
A drill is a great thing to have, but not as a major gift.
And then the other time, a barbecue. But by the way, I
that's
meant
bad.
well, and I totally screwed up.
Yeah. That's bad.
Yeah.
And again, a barbecue is a wonderful thing to have.
No,
But,
I know. My heart was in the right place, but I admit to being an idiot.
So there's a bracelet Cheryl loves in this jewelry store. He goes to this jewelry store and he looks like a homeless guy, and he gets into an argument with a real homeless guy looking similar to him in front, and they don't let him in, so he needs to call a friend to go into the store to buy the bracelet for him. And he calls his very, very dear friend, Richard Lewis.
Yes.
Who shows up in a Jimi Hendrix tie.
By the way, I noticed that too. At first,
He
I
was
went,
such a hipster, Lewis.
I know, but I saw it and I'm like, what kind of goofy ties were? And I look closer. It's a Jimi Hendrix. That's
It's a
Richard's
Jimi
favorite.
Hendrix tie.
By the way, remember we go on tour and he always had to go last, which you and I were fine with. And he came on always to Purple Haze.
To Hendrix.
Yeah, Purple Haze every
Purple
time.
Haze. Yeah. But you have to understand that Richard's a throwback.
Yeah, well, a lot of his jokes that he even tells on the show are throwback. For example, he looked at Larry and said,
LD.
Hey.
Man. No wonder. Look at you.
What?
You look like the Jewish
I was
Ratso Rizzo.
I was going to work out. Thank you for doing this.
Well, I mean, I was All right.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
The bracelet is right in the front.
That's the first thank you in like over 2 years, by the way. I just want you to know. I'm just, you know.
You haven't done anything for me to thank you for.
Good point.
Okay.
Which is a Midnight Cowboy reference, but, you know, I loved it, but only people who are Midnight Cowboy fans would understand that, and I don't know how many there are. But I would guess, per TV show, we have the highest percentage of Midnight Cowboy fans of any comedy.
Just for a little aside here, and we'll have Richard on more than once at some point, and he could tell the story as well. But just to give the audience some background, Richard and Larry went to the same sleepaway. They were born in the same hospital, like a few weeks apart. They were born the same year. They didn't know each other then. And they went to the same camp, the same sleepaway camp, and they hated one another.
Yes.
The sleepaway camp, when they were 12, 13, something like that.
Yes, hated.
Cut to years later, they're both at the Improv on West 44th Street, right around the corner where I am right now. And they look at each other, they're like, who are you? Look familiar. I know who you, they're both doing stand-up. And they realized that they were the same guys that they hated each other years ago in Sleepaway Camp. And then they became fast friends for the rest of their lives. And they are very, very close friends.
Yes.
And have been for many, many years.
Yes.
So that's the background on them.
Yes.
But so Louis shows up wearing his Hendrix tie, and he's standing in front of the store to show him, but the store closes for lunch, and Louis wants to walk to lunch, and Larry doesn't want to. Nobody walks in L.A. Louis wants to walk. I felt like that was like,
well,
you know,
where
who
he wanted
walks?
to go was quite the distance.
Quite the distance.
Yeah. So.
I walk in L.A., but that's because I'm a New Yorker.
Yeah, but there's certain neighborhoods where everybody walks, but you got to be in that neighborhood because everybody will drive to that neighborhood. You know, I remember walking from Soho to the Upper West Side. Talk about
I've done that many times.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that's normal. If you tell a New Yorker you did that, they go, "Oh, look at you." Nothing more than that. If you expect them to go, "You did that," doesn't exist. Yeah.
But in L.A., it's odd.
By the way, in L.A., people walk when they go on hikes. And I find that very unappealing. I like knowing in New York that I'm walking to a museum.
Exactly. There's a destination.
By the way, my wife of yore, and I can't think of something better than ex-wife. I'm trying because I hate ex-wife. And I will change it as the podcast goes.
You can't say my old wife.
But you know what she used to do? She used to want to go for a walk. And the middle of the walk, she would get to something where she was upset about and something I couldn't function with. I'm stuck.
You're stuck.
There's
you're
no
trapped.
taxi cab. There's no Uber. I'm stuck.
Yeah, you're trapped. Yeah.
Because you have to wait for the Uber. You have to wait for the Uber, so you're stuck. And then taxi cabs don't run up and down suburban
right.
L.A. or L.A., which is
you can't hail a cab.
You cannot hail a cab.
No, it's not New York.
No.
So I was asked this question by Becca, I believe, our supervising producer, who said, is that really the relationship between Louis and Larry? This contention and this fighting, because they're always fighting. Is that real?
And I would say the first scene that you see in episode 1 of them arguing in the office, 100% real. Them wrestling in front of a place.
Well, that's extreme.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying, yes, they do yell at each other, and it's funny. Yeah. And what's great about it, too, is there's no hurt feelings when they do this.
So they go to lunch. And Larry goes off on this whole riff about how women are so offended by men's genitalia that they have to be in love with them to sleep with them and to have sex with them.
That's why we can have sex with anyone and they can't.
Oh, because penises don't look as attractive, and that's why...
Yes, they can't just have sex with any man. They have to really love the man to get involved with their penis, with their grotesque penis.
I'm missing something.
No.
Maybe you're...
No, I think it's a good theory.
It's a disgusting theory at lunch, I'll tell you that much.
We're already finished, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I totally disagree with that.
I totally agree. Well, I disagree now. I used to agree because I always thought that they were doing us a favor by going down and blowing us. And I don't like going down, blowing.
Okay.
So I always thought that they were doing it to be kind. Or they were really in love with someone, just like he says.
Yeah.
But I over the years, many women I know, they told me how much they love doing that.
To me, that is a completely adolescent sense of women's sexuality.
Yeah, but you're talking about men.
Yes,
men
exactly.
are adolescents. I mean, come on.
And then there's the whole run about the captain's tip, which also Anna and Becca didn't even know what that was. That's a very old-fashioned thing because most restaurants don't do that anymore. But it used to be de rigueur, I think, to have where you tip the maitre d', you tip the captain.
Well, at fine like steakhouses, like fine restaurants. By the way, that's a thing from maybe the latest they did that on a regular basis was the 60s, for a nicer restaurant.
But it's like if you went to El Morocco or 21 or one of those
some great place that's old and historic. And I, by the way, I've had a few dinners with a captain, and I was completely confused. What do you tip the captain?
And who is the captain?
The actor?
No, I'm just saying who the captain. It's like
you don't
the
meet
captain.
the captain, and it is a weird
It's not
term.
like it's not a ship. It's not the captain.
Like waiter is self-explanatory. But captain.
But the captain.
I still don't know what a captain. By the way, even after watching that episode, I don't know what a captain is.
To me, that was a very old person reference.
No, but I thought it was great because he showed that it wasn't an old person reference, even though it's an old reference, by being confused by it. What the fuck?
I'm not criticizing the reference. I'm just saying that it was, a lot of people don't even know that exists anymore. And it did. It was a thing.
And by the way, I guarantee there are a few places still that have a captain.
Maybe. I think actually the Carlisle does.
By the way, you'd expect a captain there.
Yeah.
They're not going to go captainless.
So after they finish all that and they go back to the jewelry store, and there is Michael the blind guy. I forgot that Michael the blind guy was in this episode. Michael the blind guy becomes a major character in the Ben Stiller season. What was that, season 3 or 4? Mm-hmm. I don't remember. But he becomes a major character and a major storyline
of the season.
In a later season.
Yep. And by the way, the most wonderful guy, and he's so
terrific
great in this role. And if I remember correctly, he wasn't blind.
No, he's not blind.
But by the way, I have no problem with that. Nowadays, you would either cast a blind person or give a blind person every opportunity to get the role. And a lot of times you want to do that, and they're not the best person. That being said, and this is my big belief, that you don't automatically cast somebody because of something like that, but they should damn well get all the opportunities they can.
You make the effort.
More than an effort, it's like a must to be inclusive. But I am not of the one where you have to hire a blind person. There you go. Because actors can play lots of things. And by the way, I threw that out there because I know that half of you are going to agree and half of you are going to think I'm a moron. Well, you're both right. Those of you who agree with me, great. And those of you who think I'm a moron, I am a moron. So both sides win when it comes to me saying something
I could attest to that.
Yes. Okay.
And I love how Lewis says,
just need a minute of your time to help me move them to the corner so I don't trip over them. I don't see.
Where do you live?
Around the corner, just right around the corner. It would help me so much if you could just help me.
Kind of got to get to the jewelry store.
Yes,
over here.
I know, it's a terrible imposition. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
How can you not help a blind
Sorry
man?
I asked.
How could you say blind man in front of a blind man?
Oh, please,
calling him a blind man right in front
I didn't mean that in a bad way.
No.
I meant sightless. I didn't mean. I respect the blind as much as anybody.
Oh, of course, it's not a problem. Believe me.
No, I didn't mean that in a derogatory sense. I got my own problems, really.
By the way, in my opinion, that's the funniest moment of the show.
It's hilarious.
He says blind man in front of a blind man. And then what does Richard say? What's the term he says later? Someone who can't see. He says something in Larry's response to that, which is the essentially of saying blind man. It was
I forgot what it was, but I know what you're talking about. And then Richard brings up a whole thing about recovering alcoholic. I think Lewis's recovering alcoholic line should be a drinking game. Because in every episode, practically, he slips in that he's a recovering alcoholic.
It would be a drinking game. Yeah. I love that my relation, although I don't know, I met him in stand-up. I don't know what his story was then. But on Curb, the fact that I pretty much only worked with a sober Richard Lewis, And we even go to AA meetings together.
I did not really, I knew him a little bit. He's legendary. He's older than us, and he was already he was amazing when we came up as comics.
Carnegie Hall, and he'll tell you the date.
1989. So I've only known him well sober as well. I didn't know him in his crazy days.
I did, but we weren't friends. I know. We weren't friends then. We become close friends since the show.
Then Michael, the blind guy, guilts them into going to his apartment to move his furniture, which I think that premise is hilarious.
Right. And by the way, that scene is hilarious.
Hilarious.
And again, like the scene in the last episode, getting directions with that lady, difficult scene. It's very difficult to pull off these guys moving and moving and moving his furniture until they can escape. It feels real. I'll tell you what didn't feel real is Richard's hair when he was done.
Because he was all sweaty and exhausted.
But you could have pulled that off with him being sweaty. But he had the sweat of somebody who it just was too extreme. I don't know if he's ever been sweaty like that.
Yeah. That whole scene, I think, is so funny. And Larry referring to him as this deceptive blind man.
He did a good thing, but who knew?
The blind man misled us, though.
It's true, but...
He did mislead us. He didn't tell us the truth about what we had to move.
I think
he was a deceptive blind man.
I think if you're blind, you have some... You
got license? You got blind license?
I have to finish my own thought.
Well, you weren't doing a very good job of it.
Which he was.
Yeah. He was very deceptive and very manipulative.
And that's also one of those scenes where you actually feel bad for Richard and Larry. They don't come up very often.
They don't come up that often.
You feel so bad. But I have to say, Larry did not know that he was going to bring back the blind man. He does that. He doesn't write these roles.
No, he didn't know at that time.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But, those things kind of trigger him. It's the things that inspire him, that he'll be writing the next season and then he'll remember Michael the blind man from season 1 or whatever. And he's like, he reuses it. And, I think a lot of characters and a lot of actors inspire him. We have a scene like that this season that I'm not going to mention what it is, of somebody from a previous season who inspired him to come back.
Yeah, it's pretty brilliant, actually.
Yeah.
I think.
And then Richard says to him,
to me, this was a great day.
It was?
Yeah. Every day's a great day for me. I think,
What? Look at you, Norman Vincent Lewis.
No, I'm not Norman Vincent Lewis.
Are you Norman Vincent Lewis?
Is it true in that I have more, serenity than you? You seem you're never full of it. You have no gratitude.
You have more serenity?
Well, in my own way, I do. You never got
I am in pretty bad shape, if that's the case.
Well, I love you.
You are just a babbling brook of bullshit.
By the way, that's straight out of real life.
Totally.
That is so straight out of real life that he would say that to Larry. And what would Larry's reaction be? He'd burst out laughing. Yeah, I know.
Who's real and who's not?
Oh.
Richard Lewis is Richard Lewis. You're
By the
Jeff,
way,
I'm
hold
Susie.
on. This is a horrible thing to say. The only one of us who's really...
I know what you're going to say.
But people don't understand. Richard Lewis is more Richard Lewis off camera. Like, on camera, he's a little pulled back, but off camera, he's, I'll say 10 times what he is on the show.
But like episode 2, it was Ted and Mary. It was Ted Dan. So, and Cheryl's name's Cheryl, but she's Cheryl Hines, not Cheryl David. And so there is a confusion. I would just want people to understand that really we're all characters. Even if Ted Danson is playing Ted Danson and, whoever, Larry David is playing Larry David.
And by the way, I think it's quite the challenge to play yourself. It really is. But
I don't think any of them are playing themselves. They're all playing a character.
Well, a version of themselves that Larry creates. And we have more stories about Ted Danson in that arena, if you will.
A lot coming up.
Yeah.
So none of us are who we're all acting.
You especially are so far from the only thing that's similar
character
between you and the Susie Ann thing. You won't do any silly stuff that I asked for.
Well, I don't suffer fools gladly, as you know.
By the way, but you really, Larry plays along with me. Cheryl's my number 1 play-alonger, which people don't know. And you will not do any, if I go, like I've had Larry go up to extras and explain to all of them how he collects lotions from around the world, which I found hilarious. You would never do that.
No, but he's tired of the lotions. You know that.
Cheryl, we were filming in a hospital, and there was a live
You told this last time.
I did Dr. Cock on Fire?
Yes.
All right, well, there you go. But it is true. So you're completely not that, and I am so not like the character at all.
And neither is Larry in so many ways.
Oh, by the way, no, forget so many ways. He's not like his character at all. He's not.
At all.
Yeah, at all.
But so just to
hold on, JB.
Nothing like Leon.
Nothing like Leon.
Nothing like Leon.
You know what he loves doing, though? He loves staying in character after cuts. And I walk up to him and go, am I dealing with JB or am I dealing with Leon right now? And he keeps going, and then he bursts out laughing because he loves to continue it for whatever reason.
But the confusion, I think, is less for us because you're playing Jeff Green and I'm playing Susie Green than for the people, Ted Danson, Richard Lewis, a million others that John Hamm, whoever it is, that have their real name and their real profession, let's say. But they're still acting. It's still not their character.
And by the way, Richard Lewis is even acting, but like I said, he's the only one that is his character.
Similar to his character.
Very similar.
Right. Yeah. But even so, it's not him.
No, he's acting, you know.
Right.
He buys into whatever story Larry writes. Right. And I appreciate that.
And I wanted to clarify that because people that we're working with here asked that question. They were confused. So it doesn't confuse us because we're in it, we know, but it's nice to get another perspective. All right, so Lewis has more serenity than Larry. And then Larry's again watching the football game and again screaming and yelling at the TV, which I'm sure he really does. And he figures out that he lost his credit card. And he's got to go back to the restaurant to get it. But in the interim, he got Cheryl roses and they're all made up and that worked. So he doesn't feel as though he needs to get the bracelet any longer.
What was the scene where Larry answers the phone and he hands it to the guy on the street and says, if it's a man, give me the phone. If it's a woman.
He's calling.
I know he's calling Richard Lewis.
He's calling Richard Lewis.
Initially. But
yeah, that was much earlier. And Bob Whitey, who directed the episode, is playing the man.
Even though I made fun of him all the time for that performance, he was really good. He was really
very good.
The confusion, all of it. I thought he was great. So there you go.
Yeah, he was very good.
Let's go back into the future.
So he's got Cheryl the roses, so he doesn't need to go spend money on a bracelet. She accepted the roses. They were all made up. Lewis then says, can I buy that bracelet for my girlfriend? And Larry's like, sure. But of course, right after that, Cheryl comes in and says,
hopefully get more people involved.
Hopefully, but, not me, of course. But I wish everybody good luck.
Thank you. I would not expect you to get involved.
Well, it's a lot of work.
I know.
Just for volunteering.
I know. Oh, and you know what? I passed by that jewelry store on 23rd, and I think I really do want that bracelet.
You know what? I was going to buy you that bracelet today. I almost bought it for you.
You did?
Yeah. Unfortunately, the store was closed.
Oh. Well, you can get it tomorrow.
And he says, but we already made up. So I told Lewis that his girlfriend could have the bracelet. And of course, Cheryl's not happy about that at all. So Larry cleans himself up. He's in a tie and a button-down shirt. He shaves and he goes to the restaurant to pick up the credit card. And who's playing the hostess but Laura Fairchild at the time, now Stryker, who was then Larry's assistant and is now one of our executive producers and is a great producer and writer. And she looks absolutely gorgeous.
And she still looks, by the way, she still looks so beautiful.
She's a beautiful person inside and out.
She really is, though.
And also her acting was terrific.
Yeah, she did great. By the way, the key to the show is just be a person.
Right.
Don't put a spin on it. Be a person.
I've never been in the casting process with you guys, but I would imagine you must see people come in who put on such a show. Okay.
So there's two things. Now we do it, everybody home tapes. We don't do it in person.
Since pandemic,
yes. They just give their real, Most of the time, the weird thing about the audition process is people come in to audition, but they're acting with the people they'd be doing it. Larry, myself, Cheryl, Larry and I, Cheryl and Larry, and so it throws them. I go out and prepare them for that. I introduce myself. This is why I love doing it in person. So that being said, if you come in and put a spin on anything, try and make it funny, you're not going to be hired. Boom. It's true.
Let me also say about that, for many, many seasons, Larry would never allow the guest stars to see the outlines.
Oh, does he let them now? I don't pay attention.
Yes, he does now. But starting last season, I think, was the first season he ever...
So when you think about it, was season 12? Or what was it?
Yeah.
Season 13? I don't know.
Season 11, I think. And the
11,
reason for that being...
How many years people were just coming in cold?
Right. And the reason for that was he didn't want them preparing lines and stuff ahead of time.
See, I think if you give people the sides and they know the show's improvised, they will come up with jokes. Whereas if they're standing there and they know nothing except what Jeff Schaffer explains is going to happen, which, by the way, I don't read the outlines. I read the outlines when they're first written. So before we start the season, I've read every episode. And then I basically blank out. And when I get to set, I say to Jeff Schaffer, all right, what happens in this scene?
Right.
Because I know I'm not preparing anything.
But you know what, Jeff? I like to know because I like to gauge my performance. If somebody's yelling and screaming at him in a scene before, I like to know what the...
Wait a second. You never got the sides before?
No, I always got them.
Yeah, so what are you talking about?
I'm just saying I like to know what's the through line of the episode so that I could know, okay, somebody screaming and yelling at him the scene before, then maybe I'm going to be a little... lower.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
The people aren't getting the full outline. They're just getting their scene outline, if I'm not mistaken.
They don't even get that usually. Now they do, but in the past,
no, I'm saying now
they would just show up on set and they would be told what the scene is about. They did not see anything written for years.
Which I think, by the way, in my eyes, but in my eyes, an improvised show or an improvised movie, you don't let anybody read the outline. You tell them on a need-to-know basis. But now they're so dense, the outlines, that I think people have to read it. Yeah.
For many, many seasons, the only people that had the outlines were you and me and Larry, obviously. Cheryl was allowed to read the outlines, but she didn't want to. And Richard, for a long time, was dying to read the outlines, and Larry wouldn't let him.
Because even without the outlines, he wrote a million jokes.
Yeah, that's his thing.
Yeah.
So then Larry goes to buy
water.
Cheryl.
For those of you who hear water in the background, they should know we're not peeing. We're pouring ourselves water.
No, not peeing. Yeah. Larry dresses up like a mensch, and he goes, and he's going to get there really, really early to get the bracelet for Cheryl because he's got to beat Lewis. There's many, many things throughout the seasons where he's beating Lewis at something, getting to a restaurant early, whatever. But first he has to stop at the restaurant where he did not tip the captain in order to get his credit card that he left there. And of course, the captain is there, and Laura is playing the maitre d'.
You're missing one key spot. The captain parked in front of Larry.
I was about to say that.
Okay.
Yeah. The captain blocks Larry's car, parks in front of him and blocks Larry's car in. And the captain then refuses to move his car because Larry didn't tip him. It's the most petty, mean gesture, I think, of the captain.
Well, can I tell you something? You don't want to fuck with a captain. You just don't.
Who knew?
Now you know.
The power of the captain.
They don't have senses of humor.
And Larry then has to literally run to the jewelry store, which of course makes no sense in L.A. because they wouldn't be even near each other, but whatever. And Lewis is going to the jewelry store to get the bracelet, and the two of them end up having a knockdown fight in the vestibule. Ta-da!
That they do, which is hilarious.
And that's the end of the episode.
Yeah. Well, that feels good. That felt good. Did you enjoy yourself?
Yes, I did, and very, very much so.
Well, that's...
And I feel like this was an episode that established the which is a theme for 12 seasons as well, the Larry Lewis dynamic. I mean, the Be There at Sundown, in episode 1 had that thing, but this, you get the more sense of their friendship in this one, and they go on a lunch, and all of that.
And that is the complexity of a friendship when it's real, is that there's so many ups and downs, so many arguments. I say that because right now, an old friend of mine, we're not doing too well, and you think we should.
Make up.
I know I will. I've already forgiven. No, I just got.
Is it who I think it is?
Well, who else is there? Oh, there's another one. I
don't know.
Too. One's not.
You've
not
told
a friend.
me about 2 or 3.
No, I've told you one that's not a friend.
Okay.
But you know who it is.
Yeah.
And I want our listeners to guess. Please write us. I don't know. Hey,
do they get a prize?
Too much information. But listen, thank you so very much for listening to us. It is an honor that you're taking time out of your day to listen. I know a lot of you are listening in the car, and it makes your journey better. There you go. How exciting is that for us?
And don't forget to tip your captain.
Yeah, you ever come in contact with a captain, do the right thing.
Because they have power, baby.
Yeah.